Hey everyone, this is Katie Sweetman with Empowering Astrology, and this is another weekly look at the astrology. And this week it's August 10th to August 16th, 2020. We're kind of negotiating some hot astrology this week. It's no big deal. We have it covered. So I just wanted to introduce myself again. My name is Katie Sweetman. I'm here in Brooklyn, New York. I am an astrologer and a psychic medium, and I use astrology as a tool for you to uncover your best self, to uncover your higher self. So we do this every week. We sit down, we talk about the astrology, not to be like, oh my God, what's going to happen, but just how can we best negotiate this time that is trying to open us up, to get us to feel, to get us to connect, to get us to realize something that we haven't realized before, to become aware of ourselves, to step into our higher potential. And how do we do that? Well, we first have to confront what's holding us back. We first have to see what we need to see. So when we go through these really difficult or potentially stressful astrology, there's an opportunity. There's always an opportunity. And I point this out because this week we've got some Mars square Pluto, which is a very fancy way of saying the energy of action, willpower, drive, initiative. It's sort of running up against something. That something is Pluto. And Pluto shows us these deeper lessons. It shows us power. It shows us the shadow. It shows us where we are disempowered. It shows us where people are taking power over us so that we can find our power. This is hot astrology. It's very alchemical astrology. It's so hot that I burned myself at the beach yesterday because I have not really been out of the house much since February, and I think I spent the most time in the sun than I have since February when I was in Spain. So if you're seeing, I'm kind of slightly sunburnt. If you're listening to this, you're totally missing out. So anyway, it's hot astrology. We need some SPF. We need to make sure that we have an umbrella. We have to take care and caution. It's like I said, you go to the beach, and if you're pretty fair skinned like me, you have to take precaution. If the astrology is a little stressful this week, you just have to take precaution. So this is just what we're doing. We're making choices. I did not make the best choices. I didn't put enough sunscreen on. I was in the sun too much after being pretty much indoors for 5 months. I don't even know what day it is anymore. I'm joking. It's August. So what's been going on is that Mars has been in Aries since the end of June, and Mars is right at home in Aries. It's sort of like suddenly we were hitting the gas pedal when Mars went into Aries at the end of June. And Mars in Aries is great for a lot of things. It's great for leadership. It's great for courage. It's great for new beginnings. It's great for renewal. There's a sense of springtime with Mars and Aries. And if you were cooped up at home, maybe there was a sense of like, we get to go out, we get to do things. So it is it can be a good energy. But the thing about astrology, and this is the way that I see astrology, and maybe people see it differently, and that's fine, is that every planet and every sign, you can either use it to create, to transform, to heal, or you can do it unconsciously. You can do it to disempower. You can do it to break something down, to be like worn in a negative expression. It's just life. Life is a series of choices. How are we going to use this energy? So while Mars can be very brave and courageous in Aries, it can also be tempestuous. It can also be hot-headed. It can also be impatient. It wants to run ahead. It wants to forge forward, but maybe that's not always the best thing. Mars in Aries is not really much of a diplomat. It doesn't really know how to negotiate. It just goes after what it wants. So these are just two sides of the coin. And so maybe we have had moments over the last couple of months where we're like, why am I angry? Where is this coming from? Maybe it's coming from something very old. It's coming up. It's coming from, you haven't had a moment to express it or express emotions that have been pent up over the last few months. And then Mars, as it goes through Aries, it's going to, and it's already started to make what's called a square to Jupiter in Capricorn, which was last Tuesday, followed by this week's Mars square Pluto, because Jupiter and Pluto and Saturn is the week after, are also in Capricorn. So we have 3 planets in Capricorn right now. We've had 3 planets in Capricorn ever since Saturn went back into Capricorn on July 1st. Why is this important? Well, Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter and Capricorn, these are like tectonic, heavyweight forces in the sign of structure, matter, government, power, ambition. So there's good things and there's not so good things about this. And this is why maybe it feels like the earth or kind of the levers of power, or even our own lives, even our own structures are sort of bending and shaking and needing to be rebuilt at this time, or we're sort of uncovering things within ourselves so we realize we're in our structures. So Mars is coming up to these points. It's going to do the square to Pluto this week. We have to look at how we do Mars. Pluto might be showing us where we have not been doing Mars the best way. That includes when we are cut off from our anger, we are cut off from our drive, we are cut off from our passion. Mars is very first chakra. And when you don't have that kind of root, that passion, that ground, then not a lot can happen. And I was having this conversation today with a client who was afraid to feel her anger. And I was like, you have to feel your anger. If somebody if you're not feeling your anger, somebody else is going to mirror that to you. It kind of reminds me, there was a time when I had somebody in my life with an anger problem. I was like, why is this person in my life? Well, they are revealing to me what I am not honoring, or rather seeing about myself and expressing about myself. So we're kind of pulling at the edges of these energies and trying to see, okay, what happens when we do this in unconscious, where this energy sort of runs through this unconscious filter, whether it's our own unconsciousness or it's our collective unconsciousness, or what happens when we work with it. Mars square Pluto, you see it in the charts of athletes. You see it in those charts of people who have a very strong will and desire to achieve. There's a sense of competition as well. So these are all the different ways that this can express itself. And then next week, Mars runs up against Saturn. This one's a little bit of a harder energy. So next week, we're sort of continuing with this process. Saturn wants discipline, it wants structure, it wants boundaries, it wants accountability, or it's kind of a brick wall a little bit for some people. So we have to make sure that we are using this energy well. We are building and creating with it, and then constructing with it with Saturn. We're creating balance in our life. The things that maybe aren't in balance right now, we're very aware of. And then Mars gets a little bit further in Aries, and then it turns retrograde on September 9th. And so when Mars sort of flips backwards in the sky, it's going to go back over these points again into the end of the year. It goes direct on November 13th, and then it doesn't get out of Aries until January 6th. So that's a long time for Mars action, willpower, moving forward, impatience, drive to be in one sign and to be in Aries. So this is sort of where we're at right now. And the Mars retrograde of September, October, and November, it says that we can't drive forward the way we want to anymore. We have to do our Mars with consciousness. We have to take action, but in a way in which we understand how our actions are affecting other people. that would be consciousness. So this is sort of what this bigger story that's happening. Yes, we're looking at it through the perspective of this week, but that's like the bigger picture. And this is why it's empowering astrology, guys. Just so you can understand how to use this astrology to move your own tectonic plates, to transform something. If you, for example, haven't been using that anger and you're really starting to feel it bubble up, well, then how do you use it? Do you go for a run? Do you go for a walk? Do you go to the gym, socially distant gym? Do you do something at home? Do you need to, because it's very physical energy. So Mars is, just so you know, Mars is very physical energy. So it needs something to kind of positively let it flow this week. There are other things going on this week, believe it or not. And the other one is Uranus. So outer planets, when I say outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Saturn is sort of in this mix, but Saturn sort of deals with physicality, manifestation, structure, very kind of the classical rules of everything. But when you get to the outer planets, these are agents of transformation, evolution, and consciousness. And they're trying to be this force to open us up, to get us transformed. So since March of 2019, I know I've told this story before, I'll tell it again. Mars has been, not Mars, got Mars in the brain. Uranus has been in Taurus. The last time Uranus was in Taurus was the 1930s and 40s. Uranus did dip into Taurus from May of 2018 to November of 2018, but that was just a little bit of a preview. And what this time has been about, because Uranus is about reinvention, it's about revolution, it's about new beginnings, it's about awakenings, it's about leaving the past behind. And Uranus has been in Taurus, food, money, resources, our relationships with the earth, our relationship with the environment, the things that we need in order to feel safe and secure. And Uranus is really shaking up our relationship with these things so we can have a new or reinvent our relationship with the world, with the environment, with the fertility, food, resources, the things that we own. Our lives might look very different than they did back in May of 2018 for a multitude of reasons. But it, on a kind of a bigger level, it's like we can't, let's say, maybe earn a living the way that we used to earn a living. Maybe we can't eat the same foods that we ate because our body is saying no. We have to listen to our body. Our body also connects us to the energy of Taurus as well. And this week, now that Mercury, as of last week, went into Leo, it made this morning what's called a square to Uranus. So today, there might have been information that really shook our consciousness, made us think in a different way, see in a different way. Uranus is like Prometheus. It's like trying to turn the light on in our lives. And when that light is turned on, sometimes when we look around, we're seeing things that we haven't seen before. Uranus can also shock. Maybe we read something or saw something that really shook us or shocked us. So these are all the different ways in which this energy may have expressed itself already. But there's a need to communicate Mercury, to think Mercury in a way that is different than the past. The thing about Taurus is that it's an energy that's very much kind of sticks to what it knows. And this is more of a talking about an energy instead of people, because you're a Taurus, any sign of the zodiac, just kind of talks about a type of energy. Taurus is an energy that it needs to slow down. It needs to create stability. It needs to allow life to flourish, for us to plant seeds so that we can have food, we can have the resources, we can thrive. So there's this energy that wants to preserve with Taurus, which is a wonderful energy. You need that preservation to sustain life. But then you have Uranus, shocks, awakenings, doing things different, revolutions, reinvention, and that sense of the paths and the patterns and the things that we did to create stability before is maybe not how we're doing things now. We can't do it that way. So maybe, we're going to feel these rumbles this week, possibly. Everybody is going to feel this differently. We're going to feel these rumbles this week because it's not just Mercury and it's square to Uranus. Uranus actually turns retrograde on August 15th, Saturday. Uranus is turning retrograde at 10 degrees of Taurus. So if you know a little bit more astrology than your kind of average person, then you can place 10 degrees in the zodiac. Maybe that lines up with something in your chart, your sun, the nodes, Venus, whatever. So that's, and by the way, if you are listening, you are a Taurus, a Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, or if those signs are very prominent in your chart, this might be a big week for you. And all you have to do is look back a year ago, March of 2019, or a year before that, May of 2018, and to see the connections to this time, hopefully. Astrology makes more sense in hindsight than it does in the moment, because we can start to see a story arc of change. So this week, that whole bigger story around resource, money, food, stability, fertility, safety, all these beautiful Taurian words, we're shaking that up. And you might go back and you might see that it's when you frame this week, or you even frame next week against this bigger story of the last year to 2 years, you can sort of see what is on the curve. The story that I tell over and over again, March of 2019 is when I left my non-astrology day job to do this full time. I'd been doing empowering astrology since 2010. Yes, 2010. And this is another story I tell some of my clients, especially those of you who are thinking about making big moves yourself, doing what you love, your passion. When I started empowering astrology, my face was nowhere on it. My name was nowhere on it because I was terrified of being out there. I was terrified of and I realize it's completely irrational, like the people with the pitchforks showing up at my front door to tell me, I don't know, like maybe it was like a past life memory. But it was a process of me feeling the courage to be myself, to be vulnerable, to sit in front of you all every week. And that took, for me, it literally took 9 years. It took 9 years, step by step by step by step. Now, Uranus is going to be, which funny enough, moving back for a moment, this was when Uranus went into Aries. Uranus went into Aries in 2010, 2011. And that, for me, as a Sag rising, was saying, okay, you have 7 years to figure yourself out, to be who you really are. And then, next chapter, Uranus goes into Taurus, and Uranus was like, okay, now we're going to shake up your day-to-day life. We're going to shake up how you earn a living and how you do life. But the thing about Uranus is that it just wants us to be our true self. It wants to liberate us from the smallness of ourselves. So the smallness of me 9-10 years ago, even though the desire was there to do this, to talk to you all, although Facebook Live is not a thing at the moment, that was greater than the fear of staying small. So this is a week where we can't be small anymore. And not everybody is going to, quit their day job and do their passion. But you have to find what is your truth. What did you come here to do? What talent do you have? I mean, we're in Leo season. Leo season is all about the celebration of self, the celebration of our talents and our individuality, and sharing that with people, and playing and have fun. So we have to, go back and look and to see what sort of story has been unfolding. I'm just reading some of the comments, like, yes, no, I'm glad I get to do this for you, because there were a couple of moments early on in this where I was like, I shouldn't be doing this, or I manifested somebody to confirm my worst fears, whether it was true or not, that I shouldn't be doing this. And so with a very strong Pluto this week, and I'm kind of switching gears from Uranus to Pluto, Pluto can show us the shadow. Pluto can show us where we are afraid to stand up for ourselves. Where, I told my client earlier today, if you don't be Pluto in your chart, somebody else will happily be Pluto for you. Meaning, if you don't be your full self, or if you don't take power, or if you don't whatever the story is in your chart, based on where your Pluto is, somebody else will do that. There's Pluto talks about a force of evolution. I was saying this earlier with the outer planets. Uranus is about the awakening of consciousness and breaking out of old patterns and old modalities and even old technologies. Neptune is about opening us up to our spiritual reality, that there's something beyond this physical world. We just have to discover it and not get lost in that sort of foggy in-between world between this world and the next. And then there's Pluto, this soul evolution, this need to look at ourselves on a very powerful level and transform. And we have these moments every time each year where we kind of check in with these energies, and we grow and we evolve, but we have free will. And we get scared, and we might not leave the house, or whatever the story is. And the planets still come. They come in the way that they need to come, because we have to evolve. We came into this life because we said that we would do something, we would learn something, we would work on our karma, we would transform. And then the planets are like, great, well, here's your moment, here's your opportunity. So maybe this is an opportunity this week. Maybe this is an opportunity to transform something that's very old. Maybe it's from another lifetime. And then you use this energy powerfully. And then here we have Uranus this week. Uranus is trying to get us to see things differently. It's like Prometheus. It's like a light in the dark, but that might shake. That might get you to leave the comfort and stability of a day job. You all know what's going on in your life. And I'll quickly go through the zodiac so and I know I've done this before for Uranus and Taurus, but it's like a friendly reminder what area of your life is seeing this transformation and will see this transformation until 2025, 2026. Yes, Uranus will be in Taurus until 2025, 2026. So we're just a year to 2 years in a 7-year story. We're at the beginning of the story. We're still trying to figure out the plot. Aries, you're reinventing your relationship with money. You're reinventing your relationship with stability and security, what you need, what you think you need, like the ground beneath your feet. So this is a time when maybe you have been seeing changes in money, or changes in how you kind of draw a paycheck, or the things that you value, even your own self-worth. So there's a story that's been unfolding about something very basic: resource, food, money, shelter, feeling safe, fertility, stability, all those things. Taurus, this reinvention is about you. You're a year to 2 years into completely transforming yourself. If all you have to do is ask an Aries, and Aries went through this from 2010 to 2019, what is it like to completely reinvent yourself? Well, Taurus, you're in the midst of finding out. And as I was saying earlier, you're the least change loving sign for good reasons, because you're the sign of preserving things so that life can flourish. But how do you be bigger? How do you step into a better version of yourself and leave behind these old structures and leave behind old comfort zones and go through that process, which might or maybe has felt very difficult at moments? Gemini. So this is about completely reinventing, awakening, and transforming your unconscious, so your blind spots, the things that you can't see, but also reinventing your connection to spirit, to source, to God, whatever you want to call it. This is about opening up to things that you maybe haven't seen before, having this awakening of spirituality, having an awakening of your intuitive abilities, connecting to your dreams in a much different way. So this is what's sort of going on behind the scenes for you, Taurus or Gemini, because this is happening in an invisible place in your chart, but it's still happening. Even if you can't see it, you have to feel it. Maybe you can sense a subtle shift since 2018, 2019. Moving on to Cancer. So this is the part of your chart that talks about your relationships with community, groups, friends, social circles, social networks. Maybe you've seen a transformation in your friendships in just a year or 2 years. Maybe the people that you were with, the friends, the community in 2018, you're not with now. The idea is that you need to open up to something very different in your social circles. And if you've had friends that were previously limiting you or weren't in harmony with your true self, then time for new friends. If you are seeking out people who really get you, people that you feel are kindred and aligned, then this is about finding those people. They might be radically different than the sort of people that you normally connect with before. It's also an awakening of social conscious, and because it's Taurus, maybe it's social conscious about the earth, the environment, how we treat the environment. That's also part of the possibility. Leo, so this part of your chart is about career and direction and sort of that role that you play in the world. And so if you look back a year, 2 years, maybe there's been a career shift, maybe there's been a job change, maybe you're going in a different direction, maybe you're fighting it, because this is a part of the chart we don't kind of do change so quickly. We resist change. We want to preserve what we have. Well, Leo, we were kind of fast forwarding in time to 2025, 2026. You might be doing something very different. And the idea is that whatever you're doing is more in alignment with the truth of who you are. And if you've been forcing yourself into a career because it was like, well, we're lawyers, my parents were lawyers, my grandparents were lawyers, or whatever, who are you really? So you're in the midst of finding this out, and I know it's your birthday season, so identity and who you are and how you get to express that personality is so much a part of your sign in general. So really awakening and opening up to a new path in life. Virgo, so this reinvention is about faith. It's about truth, it's about meaning, it's about seeing the world and seeing yourself in this world in a very different way. Virgo, you have to sort of like open the blinders, so to speak, because Taurus is a very entrenched sign, and if you went into 2018, 2019 thinking that it can only be this way, meaning the world can only function this way, your life can only function this way, it has to be this way. Well, here comes Uranus is trying to shake up how you see things, shake up how you learn, shake up what you believe in. Maybe it's been a crisis of faith, a crisis of meaning in your life. Maybe you've needed to separate from traditions or even religions that don't support you anymore, that don't align with who you are. So this is a little bit more of an existential time for you, Virgo. Libra, this is about really shaking up and transforming your psyche. So this is an emotional part of your chart, and this shows where emotional patterns, things that you are emotionally holding on to, it's time to break them down. It's time to do something very differently. Maybe this is really exposing themes around vulnerability, openness, connection, intimacy, even sexuality. And this is about releasing the things that are in the deepest parts of yourself that maybe have been a bit stubborn to release. So my Libras, my Libra risings, this is a time when you really want to work with, it's just a suggestion, work with a counselor, work with a therapist, somebody who's really going to guide you through yourself, through the dark, through the shadow parts of yourself. This is what's called an 8th house transit. And the 8th house, which is almost like the descent and the ascent into, descent into the underworld and the ascent back into the light, it shows us, in the Greek myths, only certain people could go there. There's this fancy Greek word called the psychopomp. And the psychopomp is somebody that can take you into the underworld. Hermes or Mercury is a psychopomp. And so you need somebody like that in your life right now who can lead you into the underworld. Find a Scorpio. Find somebody who has a strong Pluto, or has navigated those energies with a lot of wisdom and a lot of maturity, because they know the path, they know the road, and they can help you open up and discover yourself over the next 5 years. Scorpio, this is all about relationships, how you connect with people, how you interact, socialize, partner, even romantic partnership has to completely change. That's not to say that if you are in a romantic partnership or if you're in a committed relationship like a marriage, that this is going to completely not be in that relationship anymore, but sometimes there has been some shakeups in some relationships for Scorpios. The idea is that whatever relationship you're in, whatever type of relationship, you have to do it differently. So if it's a marriage, how do you do the marriage differently? If it's just an intimate partnership, how do you do the intimate partnership differently? If there's different people, how do you interact one-on-one differently? Because Scorpio, you can get very stubborn in your ways. Scorpio is a fixed sign, and Uranus is like, you're going to attract people into your life that are radically different than the types of people that you have connected to in the past. It has to happen. You have to. Astrology says it's time, and over the next 5-6 years, you're going to see a lot of changes in the people, the one-on-one relationships in your life. Sagittarius, this is all about how you take care of your body, the foods you eat, wellness, health. There has to be some sort of transformation with the physical world right now. Maybe you're seeing a change in your day-to-day life over the past year or two. Maybe your schedule is completely different. Maybe the foods you're eating are completely different. Maybe, like my story, because I'm Sag rising, this was in the summer of 2018. This was a short-lived thing. I started running. I'm not a runner, but that's how I was like, I guess my body wants to run right now. You have to kind of listen to your body right now, Sagittarius. Your body has a lot of wisdom. If your body wants to run, let it run. If it wants to do Pilates, do Pilates. If it wants to walk around the block or wherever, because I live in a city, do that. But there has to be some sort of taking care of your health and doing health in a radically different way. And so if you've been putting things off and you know exactly what those things are for a long time to your detriment, then here comes Uranus, and Uranus is sort of like shaking it up, showing you that it's time. So use this energy wisely this week and put it towards making those lasting changes. Moving on to Capricorn. So this is the part of the chart that talks about the self, identity, persona, self-expression, creativity, and talents. So But you're in the midst of a personal revolution, Capricorn. I know you've got a lot of other things pressing on your sign right now, but Uranus is trying to liberate you from yourself. So your sense of who you are back in 2018, 2019, probably would bet money, if I were a betting woman, is not going to be how you're expressing yourself in 2025, 2026. Again, Uranus is trying to liberate you from the smallness of you. Capricorn is also, as an earth sign, wants to preserve, wants to keep things the same, and for good reason. That's how you build, that's how you create success. But you can't keep doing you the way you've been doing you up until this point. You cannot fight it, but you now have to discover, you kind of take away all the different layers. Who are you really? So it might kind of take you by surprise how I express myself, because when I had this back in 2010 to 2019, very different than but I was completely shy. I was afraid to speak up. I was afraid to put my name out there, but that's not who I really was. That was the transformation. So you Capricorn, have to discover what that is for you. Aquarius. So this is the part of your chart that talks about home, family, where you live, where you're putting down roots, and you might have seen a lot of changes in your living environment over the past 2 years. So this week, see what is happening in your home environment. See what's happening in the sense of the foundation of your life. Maybe you're preparing for a big move. Maybe it's a psychic move, meaning that part of the chart is literally the root that connects you to this life. And that root might not sustain you anymore, or rather the soil that you're in might not sustain you anymore. So I've been telling my Aquarius clients, like, you need a new pot, you need a new container to grow in. Maybe like a plant that's just completely outgrown its container, that's where you're at. That container might mean a move to across the country or to another city. That move might mean making changes in your home environment. That move might be making some radical changes in your family relationships. I've also seen that happen with some of my Aquarius clients. And you're in the midst of really letting go a lot of the past as well, because you have Saturn in your 12th. So it's really shed old memories, old ancestral stuff, things that you inherited that you just don't need anymore, Aquarius. Pisces, last but not least, this is about voice, how you speak, how you communicate. So really pay attention to how you're communicating this week. How are you speaking up for your needs? How are you expressing and talking and thinking and choosing and learning? And so really see if there's been a change or a need to make a change in how you communicate this week, because that's part of the bigger story. This change in communication can also include your intuition, your ability to connect to spirit, source, whatever you want to call it. So maybe there's a sense of awakening and opening up to these channels. You are, Pisces, just FYI, at the end of this year, going into next year, you're going to be dipping into a very spiritual year to 2 years of your life. So maybe this is kind of helping you to connect to your own highest guidance in a way that's very different, kind of clearing the noise, clearing the filters of the past, so you can really truly connect with something. So this is just to remind us what is going on, because it's easy with all these different things, Pluto, Mars, Jupiter, to lose sight of the bigger picture. And I always tell people I'm a big picture astrologer. Like, where are we trying to go? Even if that narrative, that story arc is over a 5, 6, 7 year time period. I mean, if we were talking about Pluto, we'd be talking about a 16-year time period, but that's another conversation for another time. But this is what's going on this week. We've got these titanic forces at play, and it's a difference of interfacing with the astrology in a state of, let's say, unconsciousness, unawareness, things can just kind of take us off ourselves. If we are doing the astrology just to observe it, not to be fearful, how can I use this in the best possible way? What is this bringing up within myself? Even if it's an unpleasant emotion, even if it's anger, how do I then do something with it positively? That's the choice that we have to make. So there you go. There's your look at the astrology this week. I mean, that's plenty. There's a couple of like Sun trine Mars, Venus square Chiron, but this gives us a lot to work with and a lot to process. So this is your look at the astrology of August 10th to 16th, 2020. Just a quick housekeeping note. I mentioned this because actually a couple people reach out to me about doing group coaching. That's on the horizon. I'm just trying to figure out if it's like September, or do I wait till after Mars retrograde, or whatever. So if group coaching would be something that you're very much interested in, this is just me starting to put out feelers. This would be like a 5-month program of both group work and one-on-one work to get towards a higher goal. Nevertheless, you can check me out on empoweringastrology.com. I'm on Facebook. If you don't follow me on Facebook already, I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I mean, a little shout out to those watching on IGTV. You can also listen to this on Spotify if you prefer an audio only. So thank you all for checking in with me this evening and checking with my sunburn. I went to the Jersey Shore. It's probably going to be my only beach trip this summer season. I was supposed to be in Rome this week, which I'm very sad about, but see some familiar faces on the live chat. Thank you all. Thank you for all checking in. I hope you are well, and we will check in again next week. Take care. Bye.